All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Free. I'm Ryan. I'm the pastor and executive director here. This is Noel, our community director here at Free. So good to be with you all tonight. And for those of you joining us online, we're glad you're here. Glad you're part of this community, whatever state you're joining us from, or sober living, or treatment center, or living room. Wherever you're joining us from, we're happy to have you here. Glad you're part of us. Glad we're part of you. To give you all the reminder, this is a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And what we do here is break the silence of addiction and create space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. And there's always one thing we don't do, and y'all shout it out on a count of three. If you're at home in your living room, shout it out on a count of three. 1, 2, 3. We don't do shame. But there's a lot of other things coming up that you might want to know about. Noel's going to give you the whole DL.
No one says DL anymore.
Is that?
No, no one does.
Now, I learned a new word, though. You know what my daughter taught me?
Oh, my gosh.
Like, we had dinner last night. She said, Poppy, this was bussin'. Y'all know what bussin' means? See, I turned 42 years old this week. I can't keep up on all of it. It's bussin'. I'm going to start using that word.
If tonight is your first night here, welcome. We don't normally talk like that, but we also don't do shame. So we're going to pray for him and Heartaches. But if tonight's your first night here, welcome. We have welcome bags right when you walk in the door. So get with a home team member. And inside it has a little bit about what we do here at Free Recovery Community. Has a little bit about what Wagon Coffee does. There's some fresh roasted Wagon Coffee in there. Oh, so good. And then some other free swag items. So please grab one and know that we are so grateful to have you here with us tonight. So you and Eric Birchfield are kicking off a 6-week Bible study called Bible Curious on April 16th.
Yes, Eric, stand up so people can see you.
Oh,
Eric Birchfield, ladies and gentlemen.
There he is.
Here's why we're doing this, because over the past couple months, man, so many of y'all, you just said, hey, we've been, this Bible, I don't know much about it. Maybe I haven't read it before, but these stories you talk about, they seem so interesting, and we just want to know more. So this is an opportunity, noon on Tuesday, starting April 16th. We're going to gather in the cafe, an opportunity to go deeper into the stories and ask the best questions that come to your mind, and we just get to ask questions and figure things out together. And who knows where we're going to land, but we're going to do it for 6 weeks and see what happens. Yeah. It's going to be all kinds of fun.
So all are welcome, whether if you've never opened a Bible before or if you are so scripture savvy, please come and join us. It'll be 6 consecutive Tuesdays starting on April 16th in the cafe right next door from noon to 1. So that'll be a great time.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Next up, we're kicking off a 3-month dinner series. So it starts on April 24th. It's always going to be the last Friday of every month, and it's going to be from 5:30 to 8 in the cafe right next door. We're going to be closing. The cafe will still be open, but we're going to take over most of the cafe space and kind of block it off for a private evening. We're teaming up with Ryan Fila on this. It's called Dynamic Dinner. It's a company that he has. And the purpose of this is to create intentional, sober connection. And he does a great job with his
He does these all over the city of Denver. We're partnering up. He's going to be our guest storyteller next week, so I hope you come.
Always wears a sweatsuit. He's great.
He's a sweatsuit guy,
He's a sweatsuit guy, yep. So the dinner itself is $55. There's going to be a theme each month. So April's going to be destruction, and I think you're doing that. So very apropos.
I'll be there. I'm not leading it.
You're not leading it, no, but you're going to be there for that night, yep. And so you can register online, and if $55 is a little steep for you, just get with Rev Ryan, and we have some opportunities available there. So yeah, it'll be a great time.
It'll be great.
We are having our 2nd annual golf tournament on June 17th. It's a Monday. Yeah, it's a great time. You're not going to be golfing, though, thank goodness.
I'm going to be there.
You're going to be there, but you're not going to be golfing.
Well, who knows?
It'll be great. So June 17th, and this year we're starting at 2 p.m. So that's the shotgun's going to be at 2 p.m., which is great. You can get a little bit of a work day in and then golf. But we're at Arrowhead again. So if you're looking to register or looking for any information, it's $250 for an individual, and then a team is $1,000. Get with Jerome, and he can get you all connected.
Yeah, he's going to say more about that next week. But
Yep.
it's our 2nd annual golf tournament. It's going to be very fun.
Yeah. And lastly, our tech team is needing help. So if you are someone who is looking to get more plugged into the community, you can have zero experience. They will teach you everything you need to know. Bobby G is right here, and he leads our tech team and has for many years. Thank you, Bobby G. But get with him after service, or anyone in this tech team booth in the back. It's a great way to be of service. It's a great way to get connected with Free in the community, and just you certainly don't have to be here every weekend, but get with Bobby G, and it's a great opportunity. So.
Yeah. All right, thank you, Noelle. You can give that mic to Kiefer, and Robert has one. We'll have one in just a moment. Because if you're new with us here at Free tonight, you need to know that every Saturday night we start with celebrations. It's how we kick things off. We lift up the good. We celebrate. Maybe you're celebrating a sober anniversary or a birthday or a new thing that you're experiencing in your recovery or in your life. We want to celebrate that together. Something profound happens when we celebrate together. We believe that God joins with us in the celebrations, and that's our starting place. So we take 3 minutes for this. You can raise up your hand. Kiefer will get you a mic. Robert will get you a mic on this side. If you're online, drop your celebrations in the YouTube comments or the Facebook comments, and we'll celebrate with you there. Let's take 3. This time is yours.
I'm Kai, and I'm celebrating 386 days free of fentanyl.
Way to go, Kai.
My name is Bree. I'll be moving to Southern California on the 19th of this month, and I just signed a lease today. And those of you who know me know this has been a long-term goal for about a year and a half, and I'm so grateful.
A dream that you went after. Good for you, Bree. We will miss you, but we're celebrating with you.
Hey, my name's Amanda, and I have 4 friends here who are here for the first time. We've been celebrating a new apartment for 2 of them, and one has 100 days, one has 106.
All right, way to go. Glad y'all are here. Who else has some good news to lift up? Well, we could just sit down and make it really awkward. Going once. Oh, I knew someone was going to raise their hand. This is going to be a good one. I feel it.
My name's Mike, and I got 30 days sober.
See, that's a good one. We need that, Mike. Way to go, Mike. Glad you're here.
My name's Bella, and I have 10 months.
10 months. All right, way to go. Congratulations. Anyone else in the house have a celebration? Oh, all the way in the back. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Lisa. This is my first time here, and I'm celebrating a year.
All right, way to go, Lisa. Welcome. Happy 1 year. All right, Eric, do you want to join me up here? Eric's going to join. Oh, we got another one.
Hi, my name is April. It's my first time here. I just moved here from Houston last week. I'm excited to be here.
All right, welcome, April. Glad you're here.
Oh, and I'll have 6 months on the 15th.
What, say that again?
I'll have 6 months sober on the 15th.
6 months sober on the 15th. Way to go. We celebrate that here. Any more? All right, we got someone in the second row here. Here we go.
I'm Sonia, and I just celebrated 90 days on Wednesday.
90 days, Sonia. Way to go. Congratulations. See, we think we're done, Kiefer, and then someone raises a hand. But now we're out of time, so I can take that from you. Thank you, Kiefer and Robert. I'm going to give this to you, Eric. And we're going to join with our online people. Maybe. There we go. You want the first one?
Sure.
All right.
Wonder Betty asks or wants to celebrate Mark. Wonder here celebrating 177 days clean and sober.
Way to go, Mark. Good for you, buddy. Glad you're joining us tonight. Jacqueline says, my oldest daughter celebrated 7 years of sobriety today. Way to go to your oldest daughter. Very cool, 7 years.
Amber Caffey says picked up 9 months on the 3rd.
9 months, way to go, Amber. Was that the last one? Yes. That's the last one. Okay, thank you, Tech Team. Thank you, Eric, for joining me up here. It's going to be fun on the 16th. Yo, you know what the 16th is, right, Eric? No, dude. Come on, man. Did you all get your taxes done, by the way? You have a few days left. Don't procrastinate. I know in a crowd like this, we can be good procrastinators. You don't have to do that this year. All right, y'all. We are, so here's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to kick off a 7-week series called Now What? We're going to start with I Got Into Recovery, Now What? Next week, we're going to do My Family's a Mess, Now What? Other weeks are going to be My Faith Deconstructed, Now What? I think I found God, Now What? 1 week's going to be Community Hurt Me, Now What? It's going to be a fun series, but we're going to start with I Got Into Recovery, Now What? So I got into recovery, and now what? You might say to yourself, well, I got rid of the booze and the drugs in my life, but now what do I do? And the truth is, if you do nothing new, then nothing new is going to happen, and you have a very good chance of going back to an old way. The truth is, if you are not transformed in your mind and your heart somewhere along the way, well, there's a good chance that you're going to get miserable enough and you're going to go back to an old way. And let's just start here. Let's talk about the awkwardness of you getting clean and sober. Because did y'all get some awkward moments along the way? Maybe you're in those awkward moments now. Yeah, because see, one of the things that happens is your friendships, they changed, didn't they? And it just got all sorts of awkward. And it's not because they're bad people or you're bad people, but now you get together with them and they don't know, should I ask him about his recovery? Do I ask her about her sobriety? And when we go out to lunch, I mean, do I order that glass of wine like I used to? Or what? How's this person going to respond? And things just got awkward, didn't they? How about this one? Speaking of going out to eat. Yeah, used to when you went out to eat, you didn't care when you went with your friends, but now all of a sudden splitting the check is now very important to you. Because see, used to you'd go out with 8 friends and you would be the one who says, yeah, let's just split it 8 ways. 8 ways, split the check. They had 2 drinks like a normal person. You, on the other hand, you had 9 drinks at dinner and you make out like a bandit, don't you? And now you're watching them at dinner. They're having their 2 drinks, but you're drinking water. And so now you're the guy that's pulling the waiter aside saying, hey, can you put my check, can you put my bill on a separate check? Yeah, things can get really awkward, can't they? Or how about this one? Now, sparkling water and Netflix have new meaning in your life. Is it true? Yes, I see hands in the air. A very simple question I could ask you. Tomorrow night, there's a cocktail party. We can go there and stay really late and mingle with people. Mingling. Stone cold sober. Or you can go home, get in your PJs with your 6-pack of LaCroix and endless episodes of Love is Blind. Which one you going to take? Some of y'all are like, take me to heaven right now, I'm in. Yeah, you're not awkward at all though, right? Things get awkward, don't they? Or how about this one? How about that question that people ask you, why aren't you drinking? Man, there is nothing more awkward than that question when you are early in recovery. I remember those days of being early in my sobriety and someone would ask me, dude, why aren't you drinking? And I never knew what to say. I never do. I tell them like I'm a raging alcoholic. If I pick up that drink, it takes everything from me. Or do I just stay quiet, not say anything? I remember I would go to meetings and I would hear these funny quips that you could say in response to that question. And I would try to memorize them. But then when I would try to say it to that person asking me, it would always come out backwards. And that made it even more awkward. Yeah. And let's just be honest with the whole thing, because what you are discovering along the way is you're just kind of awkward, aren't you? I mean, you used to know how to show up to that gathering. You used to know what to say to fit in. You used to know what to do with your hands because you were always holding a drink, and now you don't know what to do with your hands. And you're learning yourself again. Like everything's new. You're learning who you are. You're learning how to belong, and it can all feel a bit awkward, can it? So you got into recovery. Now what? And the truth is, there is a whole host of new things you're going to have to do. I mean, we could be here all night and talk about these new things. You are probably going to have to get rid of old buddies and find new friends. You're probably going to have to be very intentional with your time and the people and places you choose to hang around. I would tell you, you are going to have to connect with other people in recovery, people who have been there. That means you're going to have to go to 12-step meetings or whatever program of recovery you work. You're going to have to connect with other people. You will have to develop new habits of mind, body, spirit. You're going to have new habits because your old habits got you absolutely nowhere. There's a lot you're going to have to do. In fact, I would encourage you at some point this week, take out your phone or do it the old school way and put pen to paper, make a list and be thorough with that list, engaging the questions, what things must I do to maintain my recovery? Sobriety is a good one. I would definitely put that one on the list. What things must I do? Make a list. Some things that have to go on my list. Like, it's very important in my recovery that I go to the gym 3 or 4 days a week to get the endorphins flowing. And some of you would say, well, yeah, you could get the same physical activity outside. Something shifts in me. Mind, body, spirit, something shifts when I walk through the doors and my earbuds are in and it's turned all the way up. There's a shift that happens. Very important in my recovery. I would tell you it's very important for me to go to meetings. I'm a 12-stepper. Maybe you're not. That's okay. I attend 12-step meetings. I heard early in my recovery, like in the first year, someone said you should always try to make it to at least 2 meetings a week. That stuck with me. I try to make at least 2 meetings each week. I would also tell you what I must do to maintain my recovery. I must have a sponsor and meet with my sponsor on a regular basis, someone I trust, someone who knows me well, someone who can add perspective when I'm losing perspective. Very important in my recovery. There are things I must do to maintain my recovery. I must sleep with my wife. And some of you are thinking, uh-oh, he's just making it really awkward up there, isn't he? I won't make it too awkward. Here's what I mean by that. When I was in active addiction, I did not go to bed with my wife. She would go to bed at a godly hour. I would stay up well into the morning and get blackout drunk in isolation by myself. And then 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, I would stumble up the stairs and get into bed. Today, it's a huge gift in my recovery that I actually get to go to bed with my wife at the same time. Very important for my life, routine, and recovery. What things would you put on your list? What things must you do? Humility is an important one. In fact, speaking of humility, I must set aside quiet time each week. Set aside time to get quiet enough with myself, quiet enough with God so I can pay attention to the things happening in here. Very important in my recovery. You would add a whole host of other things to your list. And tonight, I just want to focus on one thing that you might want to consider if you got into recovery and you're asking, now what? And that is practice becoming selfless. And here's what I don't mean by that. This is not about you giving up on your self-care. This is not about you taking on a new addiction. You might know people who, man, they're always doing something for someone else. They're always serving others, but it's really a way to avoid their interior life. It's really a way to avoid everything that's happening in here. So they're avoiding themselves through doing something nice for someone else. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm also not talking about you going back to a life of shame and guilt and serving out of that way or becoming selfless that way. That's an old way. You are doing a new thing, and shame cannot be part of that. But it is about you recognizing that your addiction took everything from you, including your capacity to truly love and care for people. Because we have to admit, somewhere along the way, if you identify as an addict or alcoholic, somewhere along the way, we became very selfish people. But it wasn't because we were bad people. It was our brains had been hijacked. And we didn't want anything coming in between us and our next fix, us and the next thing that we wanted. Do you know that on my when I first got sober, I was at about my second or third meeting, and it was after the meeting, some old timer, he comes up to me and he says, "Hey, could you show up a few minutes early tomorrow and make coffee for the group?" And I just thought it was funny because I thought, he doesn't know that I'm the new guy. He thinks I'm an old timer like him. He doesn't know that I'm here because I could not put down the drink and I cannot hold it together. And my life is actually falling apart. I'm losing things that are most important to me. He doesn't know I'm the new guy. And then like 2 meetings later, another old timer comes up to me and he says, "Hey, could you show up a little early tomorrow and just help greet people? Like stand at the front and smile at people, and when they walk in, just let them know they're in the right place and say hi to people." And I thought, oh my goodness, he doesn't, he's like the other old timer. He doesn't know that I'm the new guy. He doesn't know, he thinks I'm like him. I'm an old timer. I'm the new guy. And so you have to remember, I come from the church world. And in the church world, what do? We greet you, we welcome you, and then we want you to sit and relax. And maybe a year later, once you've been attending for a while, we'll ask you to step in and serve. And see, what I learned is these crazy recovery people, they knew something about me that I did not know about myself and the world. They knew that serving others is the way out of yourself. That even when you are feeling awkward, even when you are feeling totally lost, even when life is most dicey. I think it's why Mahatma Gandhi said, the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. I think it's why Jesus said in John's Gospel being the New Testament, I think it's why Jesus said to his closest friends, his disciples, his followers, right before his death, he said to them, "I'm giving y'all a new commandment." What is it? Love one another. Just as I have loved you, so you must also love each other. And do you know what's so fascinating about this one line? What's so fascinating here is that Jesus was saying this to them the night before he died, and he knew he was going to die. In fact, he gathered with his friends, the disciples, and he's explaining to them. He says, y'all know where this whole thing is headed. The Roman Empire is going to hang me on that Roman execution stake called a cross, because that's what they do with people like me. And we talked a little bit about it last week. Jesus has been a bit of a rebel in the empire. He's been saying crazy things like God's love is for all people, not just some people. And God's love isn't about determining who's in and who's out. It's not about building the box. And he's been a major economic disruption to the empire. And he says, that's what they're going to do to me. And it's like the moment right up until his death, he's asking his followers, do you really want to live? I mean, do you want real life? Then you must learn to love others. And do you know what's even more fascinating? What's even more fascinating is what he did right before this. Because see, for Jesus, you have to remember, the spiritual life for him is not a theory. It's something to be lived out, and love always has a very practical and tangible element to it. Don't ever let religious leaders stand before you and talk about love only being up here, and it's always in the abstract. There's always a tangible and practical element to it. that same night, he's sitting with his friends the night before his death, and they're gathered at this table, and they share a meal together. And I imagine, man, what Jesus has just said to them. You know where this whole thing is headed. I imagine the disciples are a bit freaked out. I imagine Jesus, because Jesus is human, I imagine he's a bit freaked out. In fact, we know he was, because right after that, he went to the Garden of Gethsemane where he was sweating bullets in his prayers. I imagine he's a bit freaked out. And he takes his bread from the table, and he breaks the bread. And he says to them, this is for you. Like everything we've been doing, why I'm here, it's all for you. Like, do you know how much God loves you? That's why I'm here, to remind you of God's love for you. And then Jesus picks up this cup. He says, yeah, this too. But this is for you. I mean, the whole thing is for you. The whole reason I'm here is for you, to remind you of God's love for you. And now your job is to go out and love others. So it doesn't just stop at being loved, but it's the call then to go out and love other people. And then he drops this really interesting line. He says, do this in remembrance of me. Well, Jesus, what's the this? I mean, do what in remembrance of you? And is it possible that Jesus said, every time you gather in community, every time you go out to dinner with your friends, every time you get together in someone's house, every time you're at a meeting, remember who you are. Remember what the whole project is about. Remember how much you are loved, and remember to then go be that love for other people in the world who so desperately need it. You see, my brothers and sisters, if you got into recovery and you're asking, now what? I would say to you, you must remember this. You are deeply loved by God. And it doesn't matter what narratives you have lived in. It doesn't matter what your dad said to you when you were a little boy, what your mom said to you when you were a little girl. It doesn't matter what lies you believed into along the way. You have to have a starting place of believing that you are deeply loved by God. And now the call is you actually get to go out and be love for other people. You get to go be God's love, even when you feel most awkward. Even when you feel most lost, even when it feels like the world is starting to crash down on you, you get to do that. And then Jesus does this. He got up from the table and he took off his robes. Picking up a linen towel, he tied it around his waist. Then he poured water into a wash basin, and he began to wash the disciples' feet, drying them with the towel he was wearing. And it just doesn't make much sense, does it? I mean, he's going to be put to death. I mean, Jesus, why not give a moving speech? Why not use this opportunity to rally the troops and tell them to take up arms and put up defenses and fight their way out of this? No moving speech, no lecture. Instead, he does something. He bends down to wash the disciples' feet. I mean, just imagine the weight of this moment. And it's not the foot washing. I mean, this was a common practice in the ancient Greco-Roman world because you had dusty streets and sandals, so to come into someone's house, the host would wash your feet. But in this instance, it's who's doing the foot washing. He is becoming one of them, serving others, showing them what it means to truly live. Even when he's dying, he's showing them the way of love. And see, your life might be really messy right now. If you got into recovery, I know it feels like your life is really messy. You might be stuck in some very difficult situations. You might be stuck in your head and you have years worth or even decades worth of patterns of only self-interest. And I know enough to know now that the way out is 18 inches. The 18 inches from your head to your heart to do something for someone else. And if you're sitting here right now and you're thinking, I just don't know what to do. What do I do? I would encourage you to keep it really simple. Keep it simple. You have to start somewhere. Maybe on your way home tonight, you're going to get on the phone and you're going to talk to someone and you're going to ask them how they're doing. Even though your life is a mess, even though you're facing difficult circumstances, you might be grieving right now. You're going to ask them how they're doing. You're going to make the conversation about them because, is it true? People love to talk about themselves. You will totally make their day. And you never know what others are going through. You say, well, I just don't know practically what to do. Well, maybe you could join Home Team here. And you could join Home Team and stand in the front on Saturday nights and other events, and you could practice smiling at people in a non-creepy way. And you could actually ask people how they're doing. You could say creepy things like, I'm glad you're here. You got to start somewhere. Maybe this week you can invite a friend to lunch. Because again, you never know what people are going through until you ask. And take the next step. Don't just invite them to lunch. You can actually pay for that lunch. Start simple. Maybe it's time to start praying. Ask God. A prayer I use often is, God, help keep me open and aware, because I miss things all the time. God, help keep me open and aware to the places and people of where I can actually be of service today. God, help keep my heart open and aware. And if you're asking the question, I got into recovery, now what? Practice becoming selfless. If you're asking the question, I got into recovery, now what? Well, I would encourage you to get still. Snoop Dogg, he wasn't messing around when he said, still waters run deep. Yeah, get still enough. Get quiet enough so that you can actually pay attention to the relationships in your midst, because some of those relationships are pointing to the way out. They're pointing to a different way. Do you know, several years ago, Scott Bemis called me, and he was inviting me to lunch. And I didn't know Scott well at the time. We had led one thing together at a prison. Scott's a business leader in the community. He's a known mentor. He mentors, by this time in his life, hundreds of young entrepreneurs. And he started attending the church just for a couple weeks where I was serving as a pastor. And he called me and invited me to lunch. And it just so happened to be this time it was a season in my professional life that was very difficult. We were going through significant transitions at the church where I was serving, and I was getting these one-on-one conversations, and people were laying into me. People were giving me their feedback, their criticism. It was a very difficult time. So when Scott invited me to lunch, I was sure he was going to lay into me. So I showed up at the Mod Market that day, and I sat at the table, and you know how we can enter into meetings with our fist in the air, right? And I showed up, and I sat down, and I said, all right, Scott, what are we meeting about? You know what he said to me? He said, man, I've just really enjoyed getting to know you. He said, I just want to be someone in your life who encourages you. He said, in fact, I just want to be your friend, and I hope I can be your friend for a long time. And you all know that moment where you can just breathe again? Man, it was like I could breathe again. And I even said to him at that lunch, I said, man, I was so sure you were going to lay into me today. And he said, why would you think that? And on my way home, I remember thinking to myself, man, I want to do that in other people's lives. What he just did for me, I want to do that for other people. That's how I want to live. And I would ask you, who are the people that God is placing right in front of you? What are those relationships that are showing you the way? And are you slowing down, being still enough to pay attention to these relationships? And my brothers and sisters, if you got into recovery and you're asking, now what? I know it feels messy. I know everything is in transition right now. Everything is changing. Pay attention to the relationships, the ones showing you the way. And can you imagine being at that table? I mean, can you imagine sitting there at that table and you're saying, but Jesus, man, I'm not sure you know everything about my past. I mean, I know you're saying all this is for me and it's all for us, but man, we're just a ragtag group here. Look at us. We're a group of alcoholics and addicts and loved ones of alcoholics and spiritual refugees. And maybe you don't know everything I've done. And I imagine Jesus saying, man, this is for you. This table is for you. And then maybe you'd say, yeah, but man, you don't know about my future decisions. Because, see, I'm new at this spiritual stuff. I didn't grow up this way. I don't have all the categories. I'm barely dipping my toes in the spiritual waters, and I'm going to make mistakes. And what if I screw things up, and I don't really know what I'm doing? And I imagine Jesus saying, yeah. Yo, you mean like Judas, the one who betrayed me right after this meal? Yeah, it was for him too, and it's for you. I imagine Jesus saying, do you know how much God loves you? Do you know what the whole project is about? Because if you don't get that starting place of God's love for you, then how are you ever going to go out and love other people? So tonight we're going to do something a bit different. We're going to have communion together. Of course, it's not forced upon you. You don't have to do this. You can sit and relax if you want. But the truth is, if you want a reminder of God's love, if you want a reminder to be God's love in the world, I would invite you to come forward during the song and take a piece of the bread that's handed to you and dip it into the juice. And in this community, we do use Welch's grape juice. We don't have wine, no alcohol in this space. And I have to tell you, there's nothing magical about it. I mean, there's nothing even just inherently special about it. I mean, what's special about it is the symbol of it, what it represents. What's special about it is Erica Garrity. Where is Erica Garrity? Yeah, in the back there. She baked this bread this evening, so it's homemade bread. And it's just a simple reminder. And I just want to close with this. Christy's here tonight. She's going to help me serve communion in just a moment with David and Erica. And do you know, I was explaining to her, she was volunteering in a cafe, and I was telling her last week, I said, we're going to have communion together. We're going to do communion this Saturday. It's kind of a new thing for us. We used to do it, and then COVID hit, and we stopped, and I just honestly never picked it back up. You can blame me. And do you know what Christy said to me? With tears coming down her cheeks, she said, do you know the church? She comes from a different tradition. Do you know the church for 20 years, for something in my past, has told me I cannot partake at the table, that I'm not welcome at the table. I can go up front, but when I go up front, I don't get the bread and the cup. I get one of these. I have to do one of these. I'm not worthy. She said, this will be the first time in 20 years I've taken communion. And I said, Christy, would you help me serve it? Yeah, I want you to know it doesn't matter how checkered your past is, how checkered your present is. It doesn't matter where you are in life. Everyone, and when I say everyone, I mean everyone, is welcome at the table. I can't imagine God ever saying, but not you. Tell me about that thing in your past, and we'll think about it. No. When it comes to the God stuff, you are totally, totally welcome as you are. So during this song, it's called Morning Light by Josh Garrels. It's a song I've used in my life during times of transition. There was times I played this song on repeat. During this song, if you want to come forward, I would invite you to come up the center aisle and then disperse down these side aisles to go back to your seat. But if you want a simple reminder of God's love for you and God's love for the world, I would invite you to come forward during this song. This time is ours. so disappointed in me because we had a gluten-free option for those of you gluten-free folks. So if you are gluten-free and didn't come to get communion because of that, I would be very happy to serve you a gluten-free cracker afterwards as a reminder of God's love for you. And we don't do shame, I just forgot, all right? I'm going to remember it next time we do it. All right, y'all, if you're new with us tonight, I want you to know that every Saturday night we have a guest storyteller in the house. Tonight, I can't wait for you to get to know my friend and brother, Derrik Bunyon. Some of you might know him. Oh, look at that. People are already clapping for you. Some of you might know him. Some of you don't know him yet. I highly encourage you to get to know him. Here's why I asked Derrik to be with us tonight. 3.5 years sober, got sober on October 31st of 2020. And Derrick's been hanging around here for the past several months now. And I see him in that cafe area. He's always working with others, helping other men in recovery. They're reading a book together. And it was about a month ago when we had our first real conversation, I think. And we were in this room, and I'd gotten here on that Saturday night, and I was setting up the chairs because y'all know I like to get the chairs just perfect. And Derrik comes in, and he just said, hey, can I help? Do you need anything? And he just started pitching in and helping and moving things around. And then he started sharing some of his story with me, especially around why this selflessness is so important in his recovery. I can't wait for you to hear his story. Help me welcome Derrik Bunyon to the stage. My man. Dude, I'm so glad you're here, Derrik, to share some of your story with us. And, well, we'll just start here. I put this in the write-up in the email or social media if you follow us on there or you get our emails. Derrik was introduced to drugs and alcohol at the age of 5 years old. And I hear a lot of ages here. I told Derrik at the first service, 5's the earliest age I've heard of being introduced to drugs and alcohol, and I know that's not a story you glorify, but it is part of your story. What was it like, dude?
So thank you again for letting me be here. I'm as grateful as I know how to be for this opportunity and for this space. When I was introduced to drugs and alcohol, like Ryan said, I was very young. It was not something that I was seeking out because I knew the effects of it. My mom was away with one of my other siblings, and my dad and his friends. I grew up in a really toxic environment, people using and drinking all around me. They were having a little get-together, as we do, and one of my dad's friends, said, here, drink this, smoke this, and all I remembered was euphoria, blackout, and sleep. And ever since then, whenever I didn't want to think or feel, I chased it, and that's the only way I knew how to chase it.
Yeah. And I asked Derrik, many of you will be able to relate to this. I said, when we met in my office, I said, man, what was your drug of choice? And he answered it, he just said more. Whatever it was, more was my drug of choice. I mean, that was our problem. And so, Derrik, I know you were introduced to it. Addiction in your life took off at a very early age. You got clean and sober at a young age. Let's see, you were expelled from Denver public schools. You went on to get your GED. You worked in the restaurant industry, which can oftentimes be filled with addiction. And your mom passed in 2018, and things again shifted in your life.
Yeah, she was very young, and it happened kind of quickly. Within a few short months between diagnosis to when she took her last breath, and I was there with her right by her bedside when she took her last breath. She was 43 and I was 23.
Yeah. And then you were out on the streets from that time on, right?
Yeah, after that, thankfully, I had just really kind of shortly, briefly got reintroduced with an old family friend that I knew from when I was younger. This family, their son was one of my best friends growing up, and they took me in, right? They had a room in a basement that I could go to, and they tried to help me as best as they could. I quickly burn that bridge. I didn't know exactly how I was going to manage through this process, but I did know that the only thing I knew how to not think or feel was to get really intoxicated, and so that's what I did for the few months. I honestly can't even remember how many months. Couldn't have been more than 2 or 3 that I was with them, and they said, you know, we can't have that here, and I kind of made a scene and left.
Yeah.
And experienced homelessness after that.
And something happened in 2020 that was kind of life-changing for you.
Yeah, through a series of events, I was stabbed in my spine and kidney, and temporarily paralyzed. Didn't know what I was going to do, couldn't walk. Spent some great time in the hospital, trying to learn how to walk again. And I was there for about 2 months, I think.
And sometimes we would think that that could be enough to get Derrik to like change his ways. But it didn't do that for you, did it? You just kept on going in your way.
Yeah, no, you would think that it would have changed that mindset, and something clicked. I mentioned it at the 5 o'clock service because I forgot to mention it when we met in your office, but there was this moment, and I only ever saw or heard about this. I thought it was a myth. They actually prescribed me whiskey in a medicine bottle when I was in the hospital because my alcohol level was so high they didn't want me to go in through withdrawals after spine transfusions and the back surgeries that I had. And I cut that off after a couple days. I was like, never again, I don't want any alcohol. But then it got to the point where I spent a few weeks in the surgical ICU, then the regular ICU, and as soon as I got into a regular room where I could have more consistent visitors, one of my brothers would come in, get me in a wheelchair. We would say we were going to go look at the mountain view just to get out of the room. He would sneak me downstairs and outside so that I could go get drunk and high and try to get back upstairs before the nurses knew.
Man, the life we lived. So here you are, 2020, this happens, you're still on the streets. You wake up one day, it was snowing, you had snow all over you, and you told yourself, I have 3 options here. What were the 3 options?
Yeah, so what I know now is that God was doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. Gave me a brief moment of clarity between drugs and alcohol in my body, and I was like, okay, I got to do something. And I was left with 3 choices, 3 of the most rational choices in my head at the time. One was to kill myself, go to the military, or try to get sober. I had tried killing myself before, and it didn't work. I do not say that to glorify it at all, but it is part of my truth. So the next option was the military, which obviously wouldn't take me because of my spine transfusions and the injuries that I had. So I said, all right, well, when this getting sober thing does not work, I can finally die drunk and high like I always knew I would. So that's why I always tell people, this literally is the last thing I tried and the only thing that ever worked.
Yeah. So what'd you do? You went to Step Denver, right?
Yeah. That morning, I knew that I just couldn't do another winter homeless in Colorado. Took myself to a detox. Ironically and unfortunately, they wouldn't let me in the detox because I was sober. So I had to go steal alcohol to get into the detox. Spent the weekend there. I was blowing zeros by that night, which was October 30th, which is why I celebrate my clean date on October 31st, Halloween.
Halloween.
Spent the weekend there, and then...
yeah, we can clap for that.
Yeah. Spent the weekend there, called this place called Step Denver Monday, got in Tuesday, and I haven't looked back since.
So, Derrik, tell us, and I'm always fascinated by this, you told me you thought the spiritual stuff, the God stuff was just hokey. It wasn't part of your life. Now you're looking at a sober man of faith here. But before we get there, tell us, why is service to others, the selflessness, why is that so important in your recovery journey?
Yeah, so service is really important to me for multiple reasons. One, I feel a sense of duty. I feel a purpose, like I belong and I'm a part of. I always like to say service saves lives, others and mine, right? Being a service to other people helps me stay free, you know?
Yeah.
I think that the biggest thing that service does is connect me to my higher power. You know, I had this really cool experience where sometime in my recovery, I started waking up and my first thought was not, how am I going to get drunk and high today? And it quickly shifted to, this consciousness of a higher power and being willing to serve that higher power in service of other people so that I don't have to obsess over drugs and alcohol.
Yeah. So now when we were, that Saturday, about a month ago, when you were helping me, we were standing in that back corner in this room, and you told me some of your story. I want you to share it with them of where you work and your office space and why that's such a, it was this beautiful moment of gratitude that he was describing to me. And I said, dude, I didn't say it at the time, but dude, that's a story that the simplicity of it has to be shared.
Yeah, so I work at Step Denver, which is the program that I went to. I ended up working overnights, then the front desk, and then I was getting a promotion to become a recovery support manager. I get to work one-on-one with men just like me. And there was this office that was going to be built just for me through another series of events that God put in my life. I ended up getting a different office. This other office ended up being a corner office with 2 windows. And when I got into this new space, I looked out the windows and realized that I could look out either window, across the parking lot, across the street, to the corner where I was sleeping at homeless before I got into Step Denver. And that's God working in my life. Because my ego, my false pride told me, you deserve the office by the directors, right? You're going to be a director one day. That's where you deserve to be. But God had something other planned for me so that I can sit across my desk from people just like me and tell them, I came from there. Look, that's where I was at. I'm here. You can do it too. And if I ever have a bad day where I feel like drinking or using is an option, I just get to turn around and look out the window and see where, if I'm lucky and if I don't die and I go back out, that's where I get to end up again.
Here's a little transformation picture of Derrik's life. I always love these. Yeah, that's the same person, but a totally different person, you know what I mean? You know, like I said, you can often see Derrik on Saturday afternoons working with other people, reading a book together, doing a thing together. And I said this last service, some of you know this, my wife Tammy got a very negative Google review on Wagon Coffee yesterday. And the guy said, and I assume he lives somewhere around here, but he said, don't you guys get it? You're not helping anybody. You're just giving handouts, and we're all tired of addicts and alcoholics being here, and they just need to get their life together. And man, Tammy was deeply offended by this, and I'm thinking to myself, man, if that guy, assuming maybe it's a woman, I don't know, if that person could ever come in here and see the lives that are changing, the lives that are transforming, that something different is happening. We are getting our lives together, but it's because we do it together. Man, I hope he comes in here, and if he does, man, maybe he's watching tonight. If he does, free cup of coffee on the house. You can hang out as long as you want. But this is a real living story of it right here. Derrik, tell us a little bit about, it has shifted relationships in your life. And I know you talked about your relationship with your dad. Where's that at today?
Yeah, you know, me and my dad were always friends instead of father-son. We never really had that father-son relationship. Today, we do have a father-son relationship. I have forgiven him, and I found peace. I really noticed when that happened last year. I was at my granddad's funeral, and I was very close to my granddad. And I got to show up sober, clean and sober, around my family that are all still, most of them are still using. And I'm standing there above my granddad's casket, and my father comes, and he puts his head on my shoulder, and he starts crying. And I get to hold my father while he's crying. And in that moment, I experienced serenity. You know, I understood that none of it was personal, that he only knew how to be a father the way that his father taught him how to be a dad. Yeah. And my granddad was broken, and my father was broken, and I found forgiveness, I found peace, and our relationship is not the same today. We get to have conversations. I get to show up in his life, and he gets to be a totally different person today. You know, he doesn't do the same substances that he used to, and he's showing up for my younger siblings.
Yeah. And you got to make amends to, yeah. Derrik got to make amends to a family that took him in when he was living on the streets. And as addiction does, we take advantage of people. And so you had to go to them or I should say, you got to go to them and make amends. How'd that turn out?
Yeah, I was going through, and this was Shucks, it was at least a year and a half, 2 years sober, and I was doing all the things, right? I was going to meetings, I was being of service, I was sponsoring people and taking care of my health physically and mentally, spiritually, and I just had this ominous feeling like something was wrong. And through prayer and meditation, I figured out that there was still some stuff left on the plate, stuff left on the table. I needed to make more amends. And this family that took me in after my mother passed away was one of them. I was dreading going to speak with them. I didn't want to cause any more harm. I've caused enough harm, and I didn't know how to go about that. So I ended up reaching out to them, and they wanted to just have dinner with me. They said they were glad I was alive. They thought I was dead. And in this amends that I made to them face to face, I had told them, whether there's more questions to be asked, more explanation, money owed, how can I make it right? I really felt like I owed them a financial amends because they had helped me pay off some court stuff to get away from the judicial system, and I was paying rent at their house, or I was supposed to be paying rent at their house while I was living with them, and I don't know that I kept up with that, and so I was fully prepared to make payments or a lump sum just to try to make the financial amends corrected. And at the end of the dinner, I don't know exactly how much it was, but the father of the family, tried to slide across the table to me a few $100 bills. And it just blew my mind. I thought it was a test. I didn't know really at first, but my first instinct was, I can't take that from you. He was like, here, this is for you. I was like, I can't take that. He was like, well, give it to your home group. Like, sounds like you guys need that. And I was like, no, it's part of our 12-step fellowship stuff that we can't take money from the outside. He was like, give it to Step Denver. I was like, no, we can't do that either. And it just blew my mind that I go to make a financial amends because it's deserved, and they tried to give me money in the end.
And what about God, man? Here you are living a relationship with God today that you didn't think was ever for you. Man, this was hokey stuff. The spiritual life, it was something out there that crazy people do. What's it like today?
Yeah, having a God in my life today means the world to me, right? Lack of power was my dilemma, and I needed a God in my life that was bigger than my ego and false pride and stronger than the liquor and the dope that I was using. And I found it in the 12-step fellowships. Having God in my life, I don't know what it feels, I don't know what it sounds like, I don't know what it looks like, but I know what it feels like to me today to have God in my life. And I find that through being of service to other people.
Yeah. So Derrik's going to stick around for a few minutes afterwards. The cafe is open till 9 o'clock. There's actually a CA meeting that happens here now after this. It's at 9:30. But anyway, if you want to get to know... What's that? Dark side? Apparently we've got some dark siders in here. I wasn't going to say anything, but y'all just outed yourself. I so love that this meeting is here tonight on these Saturday nights and Friday nights. Friday nights too, right? Friday nights and Saturday nights. Glad y'all are here. So anyway, this place will be hopping tonight. If you want to get to know Derrik, he'll be sticking around a few minutes. Ask him some questions, get to know him, learn from his wisdom. Derrik, I'm so glad you're here and part of this community. Thank you for sharing your story with us tonight.
Thank you.
Derrik Bunyon, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks, brother. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. All right, y'all, the way we close things down here on a Saturday night, close the service down, is very similar to how we begin. We begin with celebrations. We close with heartaches. Maybe this week you've been carrying around things that are heavy. You've been keeping it all in. You haven't put words to it. You haven't voiced it. And you've told yourself you got to walk through this alone. And I would tell you it's why we have community. It's why we have a God who hears the cries of the people. I said last service, if you haven't seen the Moses documentary on Netflix, just came out 2 weeks ago, definitely worth watching. It talks about the God who hears the cries of the people. It's worth watching. Anyway, we take 3 minutes for this, a profound thing that happens when we heartache together in community. If you're online, drop your heartaches in the YouTube section, the Facebook section, and the comments. Join with us there, wherever you're joining us from, and we'll heartache with you there. We'll take 3 minutes. Kiefer has a mic. Robert has a mic. Just lift up your hand and put words to the heartache.
I'm Eric. A friend of mine, Cliff, left the meeting early today. in pain, ruptured appendix, surgery, ICU. Don't know how he's doing. Prayers out to him.
All right, man. Prayers for him. Lifting him up.
My name's Cy. I have a friend that got sick earlier this week, and she ended up in the hospital. I haven't heard from her since before she was diagnosed. I'm not exactly sure what's happened, and I haven't heard from her in a couple of days, and I'm just a little scared. So just some prayers for Beth.
All right, brothers. Prayers for Beth. Lifting her up tonight.
My name's Hannah. I want to pray to mend my relationship with my son.
Prayers for that relationship. A tender one.
My name's Teray. I want to pray for a person named Terry who lost her job and is now losing her home. Just praying for our light to come her way.
All right. Lifting up Terry tonight. Thank you for sharing with us, Teray. Any other heartaches in the house? Going once. Going twice. All right. Thank you, Kiefer and Robert, for being some mic passers. Lori, do you want to join me up here? Yeah. You've never joined me up here, have you? Well, Lori's leaving us, not totally leaving us, but she's moving somewhere else next week. So it's your last Saturday with us in person for a while. Do you want to read some heartaches online? No? I think you can do it. I think we need you to do it. Now, all you got to do, you take the first, cheer her on, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, I totally put her on the spot for this. I owe you a cup of coffee for this, don't I? Make it a latte. Make it a double espresso. All right, so I'll take the first one. I'll take the long one. Then you take the short one after this. All right. Wonder Betty, who I think we determined is Mark Betty, Mark Wonder, says, my heartache tonight is pushing through hard times in recovery, moving out of sober living into my pickup truck on Monday. Praying that I get approved for new apartment I'm seeking. Scared but grateful, keeping focus on my recovery. Mark, we're assuming that's you. Prayers for you, brother. I'm glad you're part of this community, lifting you up tonight.
Armando DeLeon. Please, prayers for my home group, Dark Side.
All right, we're lifting up Dark Side. They got another shout out tonight. Look at y'all doing recovery, acting like that, you know. All right, Mike says, please pray for Stan Giels, the former owner of Stella's Coffee Shop, as he undergoes chemo. All right, Mike, prayers for Stan, man, lifting him up.
Jonathan O'Neill Barker, please pray for all those in addiction. Pray they find a way out.
All right, prayers for all those still battling. Jacqueline says, please pray for my daughter, Delani. She is out of treatment for her eating disorder, but still looking for treatment for anxiety and depression. She's not working and is couch surfing. Jacqueline, lifting up your daughter, Delani. Prayers for her, prayers for you.
Steven Salip. Please pray for Robert G., a colleague who can use some positivity and direction in his life.
All right, lifting up Robert G. Lori, thank you for joining me up here.
You're welcome.
It wasn't too scary, was it? It was very scary. All right. Well, we won't have you do it with me next week because you won't be here. All right. Hey, I'm glad you're here. Safe travels to you. Love having you in this community. All right. She's going to join us online. All right, listen, y'all, if you've been impacted, speaking to you people online as well, if you've been impacted by the mission of breaking the silence of addiction, well, you need to know we count on your generosity. If you call this place home, your community, your tribe, your people, whatever you call us here, if this is your place, we encourage generosity. People ask all the time, well, how is this place funded? They walk in, how is it funded? you the people. That's how we're funded, and we're really grateful for it. It makes a huge difference here. Without your giving, we don't exist. And so when I say thank you, I really mean thank you for participating in this. There's a few different ways to give here at Free if you would like to give. You can download the app, Free Recovery Community app. It's free to download. There's a giving button on there. You can give weekly, monthly, one time, however you want to do it. It all makes a difference. You can also go straight to the website, freerecoverycommunity.com. There's a giving button there, just like the app, and you can give there once, weekly, monthly, however you want to do it. Or there's the giving kiosk, one beside these doors, one just outside these doors. There are giving boxes for those of you who are those cash type people, which is becoming less and less. And I have to always remind you about the dip jar. The dip jar is right outside these doors. You literally just take a credit card, however many credit cards you want, and you stick it in, you pull it out. You can dip as many times as you want, by the way, and you can only give $20 because it's set at $20, so you can't give more, can't give less. You dip your card in, take it out, then it lights up, and you get to feel good about it. It makes a difference here, and really, I know this, and I spoke to people about it last service. Some of you made this a spiritual practice in your life. You recognize that it's all just a gift. Some of you have made this a sacrificial practice in your life because you realize there's other things you could do with your money. I'm totally aware of that. Tammy and I are totally aware of that every month that we give. There's other things we could be doing with our money, and when finances are tight, it gets hard. And I can also tell you for about 15 years, the duration of our marriage, we have never stopped giving, and we're grateful for that because we believe in this mission particularly and other missions along our journey as well. But thank you for being a part of that. Shall we go out with a prayer? I think we should. I would encourage you to just open your hands if you're willing. It's a sign of open to a new thing, open to a new way. Spirit breathing life in us, through us, and all around us. Spirit always moving, and sometimes we actually get to be aware of it. So take a moment and be still. Still waters run deep. And if you don't know the St. Francis prayer, it goes like this, and it's on your screen. We'll pray it together. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen. Grace and peace to you, my brothers and sisters. See you next time.